Piers Morgan Uncensored. Today, Harry and Meghan torch what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputations. Last week was mostly sick.
What was meant to be a magical birthday at Disneyland just exploded into a global scandal because Piers Morgan called it a narcissism parade. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle thought they were sharing a sweet family moment, until the internet and one very vocal critic turned it into a PR disaster. In a brutal takedown, Piers Morgan accused the couple of exploiting Archie and Lilibet for attention, mocking the video's glossy edits, fake laughs, and stage perfection. But is this just another media feud? Or is something deeper unraveling behind the Sussex brand? In this video, we dive into the footage, the backlash, and the silent war now playing out between Hollywood polish and royal tradition. What we found will change how you see the video and the family behind it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It started with a colorful carousel, a splash of confetti, and the echo of children's laughter layered over a slow-motion shot of balloons rising into the California sky. The camera panned smoothly across Main Street, Disneyland, with cinematic precision. There they were, Meghan Markle, beaming in designer casual wear, and Prince Harry, wearing a subdued grin, arms slung protectively around Archie and Lilibet. The video, released on the children's joint birthday celebration, was meant to be a celebration of family and joy. But almost immediately, it triggered a tidal wave of backlash, setting social media ablaze and prompting one of Britain's most outspoken critics, Piers Morgan, to unleash what can only be described as a verbal demolition. Even Mickey Mouse would cringe. He scoffed live on air, shaking his head. It's not a birthday. It's a narcissism parade. And just like that, what the Sussexes had likely intended as a carefully curated glimpse into their version of royal parenting turned into a case study of what happens when image control spins wildly out of control. Within minutes of the video going live, hashtags like hashtag Disney debacle, hashtag PR props, and hashtag Sussex stunt began trending. Comment sections filled with everything from praise to scathing sarcasm. But it wasn't just the internet talking. Behind palace walls, whispers grew louder. Inside the couple's Montecito mansion, sources say Meghan was visibly shaken. Harry, reportedly furious, began making calls to their PR advisors. And Piers? He smelled blood in the water and didn't let up. But how did we get here? Why did this particular video ignite such a fierce firestorm? And what does it reveal, not just about Harry and Meghan, but about the blurred line between privacy, publicity, and performance? This story isn't simply about one birthday video gone wrong. It's about the cost of branding children for clicks. It's about a couple who once begged the world for space, now orchestrating highly produced digital moments that resemble Hollywood trailers more than home videos. It's about a media war that refuses to cool down. And it's about one man, Piers Morgan, whose words, like a hammer, keep finding the cracks in their royal armor. In the coming moments, we're going to unpack this story from every angle. Not just the video itself, but the orchestrated effort behind it. Not just the reaction, but the deep discomfort it stirred among even their most passive followers. From the carefully timed music cues to the lighting that seemed better suited for a commercial than a birthday bash, every frame told a story, one that many viewers found hard to swallow. This wasn't just an innocent day at Disneyland. It was, in the eyes of critics, a public relations stunt dressed in fairy tale packaging. Let's rewind the clock. The release was timed perfectly. Meghan and Harry had just completed a round of positive press for Archewell's latest initiative. Meghan's Netflix docuseries, With Love, Meghan, had landed with mixed but high-profile reviews. The couple's appearance at the Women in Vision Gala was still circulating. Dropping the Disneyland birthday video in this window wasn't a spontaneous moment. It was calculated, intentional. It was built to ride the momentum of their current media wave. And for a while, it worked. Within an hour, several high-profile outlets ran glowing headlines. Meghan and Harry share rare family moments with Archie and Lilibet. A royal day at Disney, inside the Sussexes' magical celebration. But in the court of public opinion, reality looked different. A growing number of viewers didn't see magic. They saw manipulation. The laughter felt too perfect. The angles were too deliberate. The way the children were placed in the shots. Archie helping to release a helium balloon as Meghan smiled beside him. Lilibet clutching her mother's hand in a pink princess dress. Felt less like a moment of candid joy and more like a promotional campaign. The video didn't just document a day. It performed it. Enter Piers Morgan. Never one to bite his tongue where the Sussexes are concerned, Piers seized the moment with razor-sharp enthusiasm. That evening on his show, he launched into a monologue that not only criticized the video's production, but dissected what he saw as the deeper hypocrisy at play. "You can't spend years lecturing the world about your children's right to privacy," he said, voice rising. "Then turn around and serve them up like mascots in a multi-camera birthday extravaganza at Disneyland. What are they, kids or props?" The studio audience gasped. The internet exploded. Piers had struck a nerve. But unlike many of his past rants, which were sometimes written off as obsession or personal vendetta, this time he wasn't alone. Other media figures began echoing similar sentiments. Even neutral commentators asked, who is this really for? The public has watched the Sussexes evolve from royal rebels to media entrepreneurs. They've seen Harry and Meghan step back from the firm to supposedly find peace, only to sign multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify. They've seen them rail against the British tabloids, even while partnering with American media giants. And now, they're watching two children, both under 10, become featured players in a publicity narrative. It's uncomfortable. And whether you're a fan or a critic, you can't ignore the contradictions. To be clear, the video didn't include anything overtly offensive. There were no inappropriate images, no controversial messages. But what disturbed many wasn't what was shown, it was how it was presented. As though these children were supporting cast members in a reality show they never auditioned for. There's a difference between sharing a private moment with the world and staging a moment for public consumption. And critics argue that this video, slick with edits and dressed in nostalgia, did the latter. For Meghan and Harry, the consequences were swift. Tabloids began digging. Allegations surfaced that the video's cinematographer was the same one used in prior Archwell content. Some noticed a product placement, barely visible in the background, of a baby food brand tied to a recent Archwell partnership. Others pointed out that the Disneyland location had recently hosted an Archwell charity event. Connections started forming in the minds of skeptics. Was this just a birthday celebration? Or was it a marketing moment stitched into a family vignette? And that's where the story deepens. Because beyond the social media backlash and media criticism lies something more personal. What does it say about Meghan and Harry's relationship to their image? Are they trapped in a cycle of needing to produce content to stay relevant, to keep deals flowing, to control their narrative? And more importantly, how do their children fit into that narrative? If you look closely, you can see the divide. In one camp, loyal fans who defend Meghan and Harry as modern parents fighting back against outdated royal constraints. In the other, former supporters now turned skeptics, tired of what they see as performative victimhood and manufactured intimacy. And somewhere in the middle, a growing number of silent observers, wondering how two people who once begged for privacy now appear more branded than ever. This video, and the firestorm that followed, isn't just about celebrity spectacle. It's a case study in modern PR, personal branding, and the delicate balance between sharing and selling. In the next sections, we're going to dig deeper into the video itself, the machinery behind it, and the ripple effects it caused. We'll look at how quickly a celebration can become a scandal, how perception can be weaponized, and how a few carefully chosen frames at Disneyland might reveal more than the Sussexes ever intended. Because in the world of media, especially when royalty and reality collide, every frame tells a story. And some stories unravel the moment you hit play. It was only 90 seconds long. 90 seconds of soft background music, cinematic drone shots, bright colors, and what was clearly meant to be an emotionally charged tribute to family, joy, and childhood. But for many viewers, what Meghan and Harry uploaded to their social media channels on that sunny afternoon didn't feel like a heartfelt family moment. It felt like a commercial. The video opens with a sweeping aerial view of Disneyland, California, the iconic castle glowing in the golden hour sun. The visual style matches a polished streaming documentary more than a casual home video. A soft piano melody begins, setting the tone. It fades into a slow-motion shot of Archie, now 5, running toward a costumed character with his arms wide open. Behind him, Meghan stands with her phone lifted, smiling, posing, recording. Harry, dressed in jeans and a baseball cap pulled low, is right behind her. The first 10 seconds set the mood. Wonder, joy, authenticity. But the longer the footage played, the more something seemed off to viewers. Next, Lilibet is shown waving to the camera, standing in front of a pastel balloon arch with a glittery "Happy Birthday" sign overhead. Her dress, reportedly designed by a luxury children's boutique in Beverly Hills, caught immediate attention online. According to eagle-eyed fashion blogs, that single outfit cost nearly $900. Archie wore a matching outfit with a tiny branded patch on the back, visible just enough to be picked up in the clean focus of the camera lens. Then came the moment that truly turned the tide. Meghan and Harry are shown dancing playfully near a parade float. Meghan spins Lilibet in her arms, laughing. Harry lifts Archie onto his shoulders. The whole sequence is bathed in soft light. Yet, it wasn't what they were doing that unsettled people, it was how it looked. The lighting was impossibly perfect for a supposedly spontaneous outing. No harsh shadows, no shaky angles. The camera moved smoothly, gliding on what was almost certainly a stabilizer or gimbal. Each transition from one shot to the next was surgically edited, with seamless cuts and color grading that matched across every frame. This wasn't shot on an iPhone. This was professional produced, designed, and viewers noticed. By the time the video cuts to Meghan kneeling to help Lilibet tie her shoe, viewers were asking questions. Who filmed this? Was Disney involved? Was this shot over multiple days? Was it even filmed during the birthday at all? What was framed as an intimate look at a private family moment felt, to many, like a segment pulled from a brand campaign. The soundtrack didn't help either. The soft piano track, licensed from a popular royalty-free cinematic collection, has been used in countless YouTube wedding montages and product launch ads. It wasn't unique to the family. It was stock audio. That detail, minor as it might seem, further fed the idea that this moment wasn't captured for the sake of the children or even for their fans. It was created for optics. As social media reaction exploded, content creators across platforms began breaking the video down frame by frame. One TikTok video, viewed more than 4 million times in under 24 hours, pointed out the camera angles used in one particular scene, where Meghan appears to be laughing as Harry lifts Lilibet into the air. There's a reverse shot, the narrator says. You can only get that with two cameras filming the same moment from opposite angles. That's not a one-camera, documentary-style shoot. That's a planned sequence. Others took it a step further. Some users claimed to spot crew members partially visible in reflective surfaces, specifically a chrome rail near a snack stand in the background of one shot. One slowed-down version of the footage even alleged that a boom mic was being lowered just out of the frame when Meghan was speaking to a costumed Disney princess. Still others noticed background details that raised red flags. At one point, the family is seen walking past a frozen lemonade stand, but the sign next to it had visible branding for a company recently acquired by one of Archwell's partners. The positioning of this logo, clear and unobstructed, made some wonder if the outing was also serving as low-key brand integration. And then there was the elephant in the room, Harry and Meghan's long history of requesting privacy for their children. Here were two people who had famously fought legal battles with media outlets for publishing paparazzi photos of their kids, who criticized tabloid coverage of Archie's christening, who declined to reveal details of Lilibet's birth, citing safety and personal boundaries. And yet, in this video, the children were not only shown clearly, they were presented as visual centerpieces. There was no blurring of faces, no back of the head shots. The camera focused lovingly on their expressions, lingered on their outfits, zoomed in on their reactions. These were not accidental inclusions, they were deliberate portraits. And the contradiction didn't go unnoticed. Even former supporters voiced discomfort. One user on X wrote, "I've always defended them. But this? This felt like a pilot episode for some kind of family vlog series. I hope the kids were okay with it." More vocal critics were less charitable. "They've turned into the Kardashians with crowns," wrote one user. "Everything's content. Even the kids." Another added, "Imagine growing up and realizing your entire childhood was storyboarded like a brand campaign." The reaction split viewers into two camps. Those who saw the video as a sweet, polished glimpse into the lives of two public figures trying to celebrate their children's birthdays in their own way, and those who saw it as a breach of their own previously declared values. A performance masked as parenting. The comparison to William and Kate was immediate. Earlier that year, Princess Charlotte's birthday was marked with a single still photograph, taken by Kate herself, a quiet image of Charlotte seated at a wooden table, smiling at the camera. No production team, no video montage. Just a single moment captured by a mother. It was elegant, restrained, and consistent with the royal tradition of minimal intrusion into the lives of royal children. For Meghan and Harry, the contrast couldn't have been sharper. Instead of minimalism, there was spectacle. Instead of a single image, there was a 90-second micro-documentary. And instead of consistency, there was contradiction. Between what they had said they wanted and what they now seemed to be chasing. This section of the video, the breakdown of what was actually shown, became more than a discussion about editing choices or camera angles. It opened the door to deeper questions. Are Meghan and Harry now fully embracing celebrity culture, using their family as the product? Has the line between advocacy and branding become completely erased? And if so, what are the implications for the children growing up under this lens? Even critics of Piers Morgan, who is known for his relentless attacks on the couple, found themselves agreeing with one particular sentiment he shared on his program. This isn't about privacy anymore. This is about promotion. That line hit hard for many, because it forced a conversation not just about the video, but about the Sussexes' evolving identity. When they stepped back from royal duties, Harry and Meghan promised to live a life of meaning, grounded in service and humanity, away from the intense scrutiny of the monarchy. But as this video shows, they've stepped into another world, one where attention is currency and storytelling is packaging. And now, with their children in the frame, the stakes are even higher. This was not just a birthday video. It was a mirror, one that reflected the complicated, sometimes contradictory reality of a couple who are no longer royals in the traditional sense, but public figures navigating the slippery terrain of fame, family, and brand. The video hadn't even been online for a full 12 hours before it landed squarely in the crosshairs of one of the Sussexes' most relentless critics, Piers Morgan. Known for his unapologetically blunt opinions and his long-standing feud with Meghan Markle, Morgan wasted no time dissecting the Disneyland birthday video in front of millions of viewers. But this time, even his harshest detractors were forced to admit, his criticism wasn't rooted in personal animosity alone. This was more than just another hit job. It was a brutal takedown laced with sarcasm, skepticism, and media insight that echoed what many viewers were already whispering online. It started with a single phrase. On his nightly broadcast, as the video played behind him on a loop, Morgan leaned forward in his chair and said, "It's not a birthday video. It's a narcissism parade." From there, he unloaded. With the same force and theatricality that's made him a controversial household name in the UK and abroad, Morgan spent the next 12 minutes dismantling the footage scene by scene, tone by tone. He played clips, paused them mid-frame, and pointed out what he called scripted spontaneity. "You don't get lighting like this at Disneyland unless you're shooting a commercial," he said. Are we supposed to believe that this was some sweet, off-the-cuff moment when there's clearly a second-unit camera team capturing reverse angles? He pointed to the moment Harry lifts Archie onto his shoulders. "Look at the framing," Morgan said, narrowing his eyes. "You've got one camera positioned at a diagonal tracking shot while another captures the reaction from Meghan's face as she claps and laughs. This isn't a coincidence. This is choreography." Then he cut to the shot of Lilibet twirling in a pink princess dress. "I don't know about you, but the last time I saw a child spinning like that, it was in a catalog shoot. Even the background is spotless. No random crowd noise, no distractions. Just perfectly aligned visuals, perfectly selected music, and perfectly timed branding." The audience chuckled. Morgan wasn't finished. "This video is what happens when two people mistake their kid's birthday for a Netflix teaser." Behind the humor and disdain, however, was a layered critique, one that drew on themes of media manipulation, authenticity, and hypocrisy. At several points in his monologue, Morgan referred back to Harry and Meghan's years-long battle for privacy. He reminded viewers that the couple had accused the press of endangering their children, that they sued publications for photographing Archie in his stroller, that they once stated publicly that no child should grow up in the media spotlight. And yet, Morgan continued, here they are, putting their children in a spotlight so bright it practically has a marketing budget. Are we really still pretending this is about privacy? His calm. "The saddest part," he said, "is how we've allowed ourselves to get pulled into this show. They tell us one thing, leave our children alone, and then invite us in for a front row seat. And not just once. This is becoming a pattern. They create content, call it personal, release it like it's journalism, and then get offended when people ask questions." He paused. "That's not privacy. That's performance art." By the end of the segment, the hashtag Narcissism Parade was trending worldwide. Within 24 hours, The clip of Morgan's critique had racked up over 10 million views across YouTube, X, and Instagram. Reaction videos poured in. Some praised Morgan's unfiltered honesty. Others accused him of targeting Meghan yet again. But there was no denying it. His words had struck a chord. What made this takedown different wasn't just the venom. It was the credibility. Morgan had done his homework. He referenced specific timestamps, quoted from the Sussexes' previous statements, and drew connections between the video and their commercial ventures. He even highlighted the subtle presence of products and branding associated with Archwell's corporate partners. If this were just a family sharing a memory, Morgan asked, why does it look like a scene cut from their documentary series? Why is the music licensed? Why are the outfits so meticulously chosen? Why does every shot look like it went through a post-production house? And his final question, delivered with a sneer, silenced even his live studio audience for a moment. Is this really for the children? Or is it for the cameras? It was a rhetorical question, but it captured the essence of what made the video so controversial. Beyond the performative visuals and glossy editing, Morgan was calling out something deeper, the transformation of Harry and Meghan from public figures into content creators. And not just creators. Curators. Producers of a lifestyle brand where authenticity is tailored, moments are monetized, and children are positioned not as protected minors, but as components in a larger narrative arc. Morgan's words ignited debate across every major media platform. Journalists on both sides of the Atlantic began weighing in. British tabloids, never shy about amplifying Morgan's perspective, published headlines like Piers shreds Meghan's PR circus and Sussex is slammed for birthday showboating. Meanwhile, American outlets treaded more carefully, though several mainstream voices cautiously echoed Morgan's concerns. In one segment on a U.S. morning show, a respected media analyst remarked, Piers Morgan may be inflammatory, but the questions he's raising are valid. This video feels more like a trailer than a birthday celebration. And that raises uncomfortable questions about intention. And intention, more than anything else, became the focal point of the controversy. Was this truly a family celebrating a milestone with joy and openness? Or was it a strategic maneuver to maintain media relevance, boost the Sussexes' personal brand, and soften public perception amid other criticisms? For Morgan, the answer was obvious. Meghan and Harry are addicted to the spotlight, he declared at the close of his segment. And now they're feeding that addiction with curated moments of manufactured authenticity. It's exhausting. And frankly, it's embarrassing. He leaned back, a smirk on his face, as the show cut to commercial. But the damage was already done. Within hours, online opinion had polarized even further. Supporters of the Sussexes accused Morgan of obsessive bullying. Some called his comments misogynistic. Others claimed he was leveraging the family's fame to boost his own ratings. But even among those sympathetic to Harry and Meghan, there was a growing discomfort with the substance of his critique. Some fans confessed they had felt uneasy watching the video but hadn't been able to articulate why. Morgan's breakdown, though brash, gave words to that unease. I didn't want to agree with him, one viral post read, but he kind of nailed it. As the media cycle churned, Meghan and Harry remained publicly silent. There were no statements issued, no clarifications posted, but behind the scenes, insiders claim they were reeling. According to a former Archwell staffer who spoke on condition of anonymity, Meghan was blindsided by the negative reaction. She had reportedly believed the video would be a slam dunk, a rare, emotional gift to the public that might humanize them after months of intense scrutiny. Harry, the source said, was furious not at Meghan, but at the press, Piers Morgan in particular. He kept saying, why does he always come for us? What did we do to deserve this? But outside their Montecito bubble, the reality was harder to escape. Morgan's critique, bombastic as it was, had shifted the conversation. It wasn't just about one birthday video anymore. It was about a pattern, about a brand, about two people who had once fought for privacy, but now appeared to be chasing spotlight with growing desperation. And the real tragedy? That the children, innocent, unaware, and completely voiceless in all of this, had become the most powerful props in the most scrutinized family saga of the modern era. If the video itself sparked curiosity and Piers Morgan's takedown poured fuel on the fire, the public's reaction was the explosion. What began as a soft rollout of a sentimental family moment quickly fractured into a digital battlefield, with sharp lines drawn between praise, disbelief, and flat-out mockery. Platforms like X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram lit up with hot takes. Hashtags competed for dominance, and the entire event became something far beyond the bounds of a children's birthday celebration. It became a referendum on the Sussex brand. In the hours following the video's release, a predictable wave of praise came from their most loyal supporters. Influencers aligned with progressive social causes reposted the video with captions like "proof that love wins" and "the future of royalty is compassion, not protocol." One verified user called it a cinematic masterpiece of modern parenthood. Archwell fan pages promoted the video across Facebook groups and online communities, hailing it as a glimpse into a liberated royal family finally living on their own terms. But that praise was soon drowned out by a louder, sharper counterwave. It didn't take long before terms like cringe, staged, and overproduced flooded the comment sections. Some users posted screenshots of particularly glossy moments, like Meghan laughing in slow motion while holding a cupcake, and sarcastically captioned them with phrases like "just your average mom," totally not acting for the camera. One viral thread compiled stills from the video alongside promotional footage from Meghan's Netflix series, suggesting the aesthetic was almost identical. The criticism, however, wasn't just aesthetic. It was ideological. What angered many wasn't that the Sussexes had filmed a video with their kids, it was that they did so while having built their reputation, at least in part, on attacking the media for intrusions into their family life. The contrast between their stated principles and their polished public performance struck a nerve with viewers who had once empathized with their claims of harassment and exploitation. One widely shared post read, "I used to defend them when the British press was stalking them. But how can they demand privacy and then orchestrate something like this? It feels dishonest." Another asked, if this is their version of freedom, what were they really running from? The monarchy or the responsibility of restraint? The backlash wasn't isolated to social media either. Major online forums and news comment sections began hosting long, impassioned debates. On Reddit's r/popculture chat, a thread titled, "Is anyone else uncomfortable with the Sussex Disneyland video?" reached thousands of comments. Many responses echoed the same discomfort. The children didn't look unhappy, but their presence felt instrumental, not organic. "Kids at that age don't know what a brand is," one user wrote. "But they sure as hell know when they're being directed." Those smiles didn't look spontaneous, they looked coached. The tone of these conversations was telling. This wasn't a mob driven by blind hate. It was a collective response from people who felt betrayed by what they perceived as image manipulation. And yet, not everyone was upset. There was a contingent of viewers who insisted the criticism was overblown. To them, the video was harmless, a personal tribute that just happened to be well-produced. They argued that public figures have every right to curate how they share personal moments, especially in an era where the internet is eager to weaponize unflattering content. Meghan and Harry, they argued, had simply taken control of their own story. Everyone complained when paparazzi invaded their lives, one user wrote. Now people are mad they're telling their story themselves? Make it make sense. The debate even made its way into newsrooms and media panels. On a popular daytime talk show, one panelist defended the Sussexes by comparing the video to celebrity Christmas cards or behind-the-scenes maternity photo shoots. If Beyoncé can post an entire album of her daughter's birthday party, why can't Meghan? She asked. Why do we keep holding her to a different standard? Her co-host disagreed. Because Beyoncé doesn't simultaneously sue tabloids for photographing her kids and then turn around and put them in a professional-grade music video. The hypocrisy is the issue, not the video itself. This distinction became a central thread in most critical reactions. The problem wasn't celebration, it was contradiction. It wasn't joy, it was intention. Viewers weren't condemning the act of filming a child's birthday. They were calling out the careful orchestration of a moment that was being packaged and distributed for consumption, all while claiming moral high ground against media exploitation. And then came the memes. The internet's fastest weapon, memes encapsulated the discomfort in brutally funny ways. One showed a split image, on the left, the Disneyland birthday footage, on the right, a film still from The Truman Show, where a child's life is broadcast 24/7 without his knowledge. The caption? Life, sponsored by Archwell. Another meme depicted a faux promotional poster, coming soon, with love, Lilibet, a Netflix original. Beneath it, mock critic quotes read, heartwarming, photogenic, and eerily rehearsed. The ridicule spilled into parody videos. A YouTuber known for royal satire posted a fake making-of documentary about the birthday video, featuring actors in costume pretending to be cameramen whispering directions to the children. Okay, Lilibet, now wave like it's spontaneous. No, more natural. No, more cute. The parody gained over 2 million views in under 48 hours. Yet beneath all the jokes and mockery, there was an undercurrent of seriousness that made the reaction all the more powerful. People weren't just laughing at Meghan and Harry. They were reacting to a broader anxiety about authenticity in an era where everything feels curated. They were expressing concern about children growing up as pawns in brand strategies. They were questioning where the line falls between self-expression and self-exploitation. Some viewers expressed sympathy for the children directly. It's not their fault, one comment read. They didn't ask to be born into this media storm. But they're in it, and they don't have a say. Others worried about the long-term effects. If you grow up being filmed like this, another commenter noted, what does that do to your understanding of love, privacy, or identity? Will they be able to separate real moments from performative ones? The fact that these questions were being asked at all revealed how deeply the video had touched a nerve, not just about Meghan and Harry, but about modern parenthood in the age of constant content. It wasn't just about two celebrities. It was about all of us. By the end of the week, the online conversation had reached saturation. Influencers, journalists, scholars, and regular viewers had all weighed in. The video had become more than viral, it had become symbolic. A Rorschach test for how people view authenticity, fame, and the exploitation of innocence. And perhaps that's why the reaction was so intense. Because in the end, the Disneyland video wasn't just a glimpse into the lives of two famous parents. It was a mirror. And what people saw in that mirror, whether it was love or ambition, sincerity or manipulation, said just as much about them as it did about the Sussexes. The video went live. The world responded, loudly, divisively, and in many cases, cruelly. But behind the carefully composed public silence, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were reportedly anything but calm. Inside their Montecito estate, the walls that once offered sanctuary from British tabloid chaos now echoed with the tension of another storm. This time, one of their own making. Though no official statement was released in the days following Piers Morgan's on-air attack and the internet's viral dissection of their Disneyland video, multiple insiders close to the Sussex camp painted a picture of panic, anger, and deep frustration. What was intended to be a celebration of family had instead turned into a public relations nightmare. And the pressure behind closed doors was mounting quickly. According to a longtime former staffer at Archwell who agreed to speak off record, Meghan was deeply upset by the reaction. She truly believed the video would connect with people, the source explained. In her mind, it was a gift to their supporters, something heartfelt and joyful, especially after a rough year in the media. But what rattled Meghan the most wasn't just the backlash itself, it was the accusation that she had used her children as props. For a woman who had spent years fighting for the right to control how her children were portrayed and by whom, being accused of exploiting them was not just criticism. It was betrayal. She felt blindsided, the insider said. She thought this would be seen as vulnerability. Instead, people called it vanity. That hit hard. Harry, meanwhile, reportedly took a different tone. He was said to be furious, not necessarily at Meghan, but at the press, at Piers Morgan specifically, and even at members of their own team. According to one source, Harry lashed out during a closed-door meeting, asking, why the hell didn't anyone predict this would happen? He allegedly blamed advisors for underestimating the media's readiness to pounce and the public's growing skepticism. There were also reports of internal chaos within Archwell. Staff members scrambled to draft potential responses, anticipate press narratives, and organize damage control strategies. Some pushed for a rebuttal, an op-ed, or carefully worded Instagram post clarifying their intent and denouncing the attacks. Others urged restraint, arguing that engaging would only prolong the controversy and give critics more ammunition. In the end, silence prevailed. But it wasn't peace. It was paralysis. Inside Montecito, the silence was thick with calculation. Every move was measured, every word debated. Meghan was allegedly concerned that speaking out would make her look defensive. Harry worried about reinforcing the perception that they were overly sensitive or incapable of absorbing public feedback. But what they feared most, according to those close to them, was that the criticism might be valid. This internal doubt began to surface subtly in their interactions with staff. One Archwell team member recalled that Meghan asked repeatedly in the days after the video's release, "Do you think we went too far?" It wasn't rhetorical. She wanted real answers. But few were brave enough to respond candidly. "There's a culture of yes men in that circle now," the insider said. "A lot of people are scared to contradict them, especially Meghan. She's built this image of being a fierce visionary, and questioning that can make you seem disloyal." The emotional toll reportedly extended into their family dynamic. One source revealed that Meghan became increasingly withdrawn for several days, skipping scheduled Zoom calls and refusing to attend a planned philanthropic event in Los Angeles. She was heartbroken, the source said, not just about the backlash, but about the idea that people now see her as fake. For Harry, the frustration took a different path. He reportedly called multiple friends in the UK to vent, some of whom were connected to palace insiders. During one conversation, he allegedly said, "They'll never stop coming for us, no matter what we do." Those close to him say this moment mirrored previous episodes of emotional regression. When the pressures of media scrutiny stirred unresolved trauma from his youth, especially memories of his mother, Princess Diana, and how her own life was consumed by the hunger of the cameras. There were also reports that Harry attempted to reach out to at least one senior British royal, perhaps seeking advice or solidarity. Whether he spoke to Prince William or another close relative remains unclear, but the gesture alone signals the depth of his distress. Meanwhile, Archwell's PR team huddled behind the scenes. Publicists reviewed every post scheduled for release over the next month. Some were pulled altogether. A campaign involving a charitable initiative featuring Lilibet's artwork was quietly shelved. Scheduled interviews were either postponed or canceled. The team reportedly hired a new crisis consultant, one who previously worked with tech CEOs embroiled in image-damaging scandals. What scared them, another source said, was not just the backlash, it was the speed of it. The way the narrative flipped in hours. They're used to some pushback, but this was something else. This was rejection from even their own fan base. For a couple whose public image has been meticulously curated since their exit from royal life, this sudden rejection felt seismic. The Disney video was supposed to be a soft reset, a charming distraction, a break from the bruising political and media fights that had characterized their public lives in recent months. Instead, it became a symbol of what critics had long claimed, that their brand was built not on authenticity, but on a carefully constructed illusion. And this realization shook them, because it didn't come from the usual villains. It wasn't just the tabloids, or Piers Morgan, or the right-wing press. It came from ordinary people, former fans, sympathetic viewers who once believed in their message of liberation and sincerity. People who had cheered their departure from the royal fold, applauded their Oprah interview, and embraced their modern family image. Now, many of those same people were asking hard questions. Why do they keep sharing these polished moments while claiming to be victims of media intrusion? Why are the children so often present in their public messaging despite years of railing against the press for photographing them? These were the questions Harry and Meghan could not answer publicly without drawing more attention to them. And so, they retreated. For days, they reportedly refused all interview requests. Meghan was said to have paused her work on an upcoming lifestyle segment for her Netflix series. Archwell staff were instructed to lay low. No tweets, no interviews, no videos. It was a strategic silence, but an uncomfortable one. Because in that silence, the narrative continued to spiral beyond their control. Social media influencers and commentators filled the vacuum. Talk shows replayed Morgan's critique daily. Think pieces were published on the ethics of involving children in brand identity. Media watchdog groups weighed in on whether Meghan and Harry had crossed a moral line. The longer they said nothing, the more guilty they appeared in the eyes of their critics. And yet, behind the scenes, one thing was clear: they were shaken. Not by Morgan's insults. They'd survived worse. Not even by the memes or parodies. What pierced them most was the realization that their audience, the people they had sought to inspire, connect with, and rally, had started to turn away. And in the fickle world of public image, where sentiment is currency, that kind of loss is often the most painful. As the dust continued to settle after the Disneyland video debacle, one uncomfortable question emerged from the ashes of public discourse, one that even the most vocal Meghan and Harry supporters hesitated to answer directly. Had Archie and Lilibet, the two children the Duke and Duchess of Sussex once vowed to protect from the spotlight, now become unwilling participants in their parents' ever-growing media narrative? For many, the answer was becoming difficult to deny. From the moment they stepped away from royal duties, Harry and Meghan made it clear they were drawing a hard line when it came to their children. One of the first decisions they made post-exit was to limit, and in many cases, outright block, access to Archie. No royal christening photos, no birthday portraits offered to the press, no traditional balcony appearances. The message was repeated in interviews and court documents. Their children were off-limits. In a world where royals are often subject to generational scrutiny, that stance earned praise. To many, it seemed like a modern, progressive take on parenting in the public eye. They were breaking with tradition to protect their children's right to privacy. But the video from Disneyland introduced a stark and jarring contradiction. Suddenly, Archie and Lilibet were not only visible, they were the centerpiece. Their smiles, gestures, outfits, reactions, all were prominently featured in a professionally edited video. There were no shadowed profiles or obscured angles. No attempt to protect their identities. The camera lingered on their faces, soaked in their joy, framed them in slow motion. It didn't feel like a family caught on tape. It felt like a casting reel. And that dissonance was what made the public so uneasy. If Harry and Meghan had chosen to keep their children completely out of the spotlight, the criticism would have had no teeth. If they had instead embraced a transparent approach, acknowledging the fine line they were walking, perhaps it would have sparked sympathy. But what many saw was something else entirely, a selective strategy of visibility. Their children, it appeared, were not off-limits, they were on standby. Used when it served the narrative. This notion that Archie and Lilibet were being used as emotional leverage or public relations tools felt like a betrayal to those who once championed the Sussexes' position. It also raised deep ethical questions, especially among child psychologists and media ethicists who have long warned against turning children into brand accessories. One such expert, Dr. Samantha Blythe, spoke out during a panel on child privacy in the digital age. While not referring to the Sussexes specifically, she discussed a growing trend among celebrity parents. We're seeing more children placed into curated online narratives before they can speak, consent, or understand what's happening, she said. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's born from a place of love. But the long-term consequences, psychologically and emotionally, can be significant. Children may grow up unsure of who they are outside the public image created for them. It wasn't just theoretical. There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that children raised in highly visible digital spaces, especially those tied to monetized platforms, can experience identity confusion, trust issues, and boundary anxieties. When a child's earliest memories are interwoven with content creation, the lines between real life and performance blur in ways adults may not fully grasp. In the case of Archie and Lilibet, the risk was multiplied by the sheer scale of their parents' platform. Meghan and Harry are not influencers. They are former royals, global celebrities, cultural flashpoints. Their every move is watched, interpreted, and dissected. So when they make the decision to showcase their children, especially in high-quality, edited, public-facing productions, they are doing so in full awareness of the ripple effect. And yet, that decision seems to be made more and more frequently. Since their Netflix series aired, both children have appeared in multiple formats. Still photos, candid footage, background shots. In the Archetypes podcast marketing, a previously unseen photo of Archie was quietly embedded in promotional slides. On Meghan's now-paused lifestyle blog Reboot, references to motherhood moments were accompanied by vague allusions to her daughter's development milestones. At first, it was subtle. Then it became more overt. And the Disneyland video was the tipping point. It wasn't just that Archie and Lilibet were visible, it was how they were presented. As emotional anchors to a feel-good narrative. Their presence elevated the visuals, softened the backlash, made the Sussexes appear more grounded, more relatable. But it also sent a clear message: the children are no longer invisible. And that came with consequences. Piers Morgan wasn't the only one who noticed. Other high-profile critics began weighing in. British columnist Sarah Vine wrote, "They're beautiful children, but that doesn't mean they should be broadcast. It's heartbreaking to see them turned into part of the spectacle." American talk show host Megyn Kelly, who has clashed with Meghan before, added her voice. This was exploitation wrapped in pastel and nostalgia. You can't have it both ways, shield them, and then parade them. Even within Hollywood circles, whispers began circulating. A well-connected publicist, speaking off the record, shared that several executives had grown increasingly uneasy about the couple's media strategy involving the children. "There's a line," she said. "When the kids start becoming part of the pitch deck, that's when things get tricky." The irony, of course, is that Meghan and Harry once fought hard to keep their children out of the royal media machine. They declined the royal rota system. They skipped the post-birth photo op outside the hospital. They kept Lilibet's christening largely secret. But now, far from the palace gates, they had constructed a machine of their own. One fueled by camera crews, distribution deals, and branded intimacy. And the children were very much part of it. The backlash had one unexpected consequence. Several child advocacy organizations began quietly reaching out to Archewell, requesting clarification on how the organization handles child participation in media. At least one nonprofit reportedly declined a joint initiative after the video's release, citing discomfort with shifting messaging around childhood privacy. This wasn't a political scandal. It wasn't a royal family feud. It was something arguably more serious, a crisis of credibility. And at its core were two young children, caught between a world of image control and parental intention. To be fair, Meghan and Harry may genuinely believe they are protecting their children. They may see the videos as expressions of love, moments of bonding shared with a loyal audience. But intention does not erase impact. And as many observers have pointed out, children cannot distinguish between a private memory and a global content drop. In the court of public opinion, the verdict was becoming clear. Archie and Lilibet were no longer just part of the family. They were part of the brand. And once that line is crossed, it is difficult, if not impossible, to walk back. In the aftermath of the Disneyland birthday video, as headlines about hypocrisy and overproduction multiplied, a new theory began circulating online and in media circles alike. One that drew attention not only to the visuals of the video but to its underlying purpose. Was the video truly a spontaneous family moment? Or was it quietly crafted as a promotional tool linked to Meghan Markle's ongoing relationship with Netflix? At the center of this theory is the growing suspicion that the footage was more than a birthday tribute. Observers began noticing its aesthetic resemblance to scenes from Meghan's lifestyle series with Love, Meghan, a Netflix-backed documentary meets visual blog series aimed at promoting values like motherhood, balance, wellness, and creative independence. From the music and color grading to the tone and pacing, the Disneyland footage didn't just feel like family documentation, it felt like B-roll from a Netflix episode. To the average viewer, that may seem like a stretch. But to those familiar with digital storytelling, especially those who work in branded content, it wasn't far-fetched at all. In fact, it was textbook. In the digital production world, there's a term called evergreen content, material created to be used at any time, for any purpose. It's often designed to be uplifting, emotionally resonant, and timeless in presentation. Meghan and Harry's video, with its dreamy footage and cross-cut scenes of parenthood, slotted perfectly into that category. It could be cut into a promotional reel, layered into a documentary, or embedded into a future campaign. And that's where Netflix comes in. Though Meghan's Archetypes podcast partnership with Spotify famously imploded, her deal with Netflix remains alive. While Harry and Meghan, their 6-part documentary series, has come and gone, the pair continue to develop content for the streaming giant. Meghan is said to be leading several passion projects, including with Love, Meghan, which blends personal reflections, motherhood narratives, and lifestyle aesthetics into what's been called an influencer's diary at royal scale. For some media analysts, the connection between the Disneyland footage and this Netflix identity was too obvious to ignore. In one segment on a morning cable news panel, the journalist explained, "There's a formula here. Meghan's team understands emotional marketing, slow-motion clips of children, family-oriented messaging, poetic visuals. The video doesn't exist in a vacuum. It builds a mood, one that matches the exact tone Netflix wants in her series." This theory was further strengthened by the appearance of specific visual motifs that had appeared in previous Archewell productions. Viewers noticed similar lighting setups, use of drone footage, and camera movement techniques employed in Harry and Meghan. Even the color palette, a soft pastel overlay with creamy whites and golden sun flares, was a perfect match to the scenes from their docuseries family segments. The implication was unsettling. If true, it meant that the children's birthday celebration may not have been a private family decision at all. It may have been storyboarded, not necessarily by Netflix directly, but with future content in mind. Behind the scenes, there were whispers. A source close to a Netflix executive claimed the footage had been shot independently, but may have been reviewed for future integration into streaming projects. That same source added, "It's not uncommon for talent to build their own media libraries and submit usable segments for licensing later." In other words, the Sussexes could retain ownership of the video while also negotiating its inclusion in future branded episodes. And that's where the ethical dilemma exploded. Because if the Disneyland video was indeed pre-planned for potential commercial use, that would make Archie and Lilibet more than just stars of a home movie. It would place them, once again, at the heart of their parents' business model. The speculation triggered an avalanche of online analysis. YouTubers who specialize in media forensics uploaded breakdowns, matching the editing styles between With Love, Meghan teaser footage, and the Disneyland video. Side-by-side comparisons showed near-identical transitions, camera panning, and use of natural light to frame emotion-heavy moments. One breakdown, titled "This Is Not a Coincidence: Disney Clip vs. Netflix Series," amassed over 1 million views within days. But the most compelling clue came in the form of a single production credit. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed that one of the video's cinematographers had also worked on earlier Sussex-linked projects. While not officially credited, since the Disneyland video was posted through social media channels, not through traditional platforms, the filmmaker's unique style and social media breadcrumbs hinted strongly at the overlap. His agency's client portfolio, though unlisted, contains footage that matches shots found in both the birthday video and Meghan's upcoming Netflix visuals. The reaction was swift and skeptical. "Are we really supposed to believe this wasn't planned for commercial use?" One user posted. "Nothing in that video felt spontaneous." Another added, "If Netflix didn't direct it, they definitely knew about it. You don't shoot that kind of footage without a long-term plan." At this point, questions about legality and consent also started emerging. If footage of Archie and Lilibet was potentially part of a future Netflix offering, even if indirectly, were there protections in place to ensure the children's rights? Were there contracts, boundaries, ethical guidelines? Children in media are subject to different labor laws and consent requirements. While those vary between the UK and US, California, where the video was shot, is notoriously strict when it comes to child actors and their earnings. But if the children aren't technically acting, and the video is classified as personal content, it may fall into a gray area, one where emotional exposure is high, but legal protection is minimal. Critics pounced on that ambiguity. One entertainment lawyer, speaking anonymously to a film publication, noted, "If you're using your children's likeness in a way that later appears on a commercial platform, you're entering murky ethical territory. It's especially complicated when those children are too young to understand what they're participating in. This isn't just about filming your kid, it's about profiting from them." For Meghan and Harry, who have spoken frequently about trauma, boundaries, and the right to one's own story, the idea that they may be blurring those same lines with their children sparked outrage. Not because people doubted their love, but because it signaled a potential willingness to compromise their own values for the sake of keeping the spotlight trained in their direction. Supporters tried to push back. Some argued that even if the video was visually polished, that didn't prove it was made for Netflix. Others claimed the Sussexes were simply documenting their lives with professional tools, as many influencers and celebrities do. Would people be this angry if Tom Brady or Beyoncé posted a similar video? One post asked. Or is it because it's Meghan? But even those arguments couldn't fully blunt the discomfort, because Meghan and Harry aren't just any celebrities. They're public figures who built an entire narrative around breaking free from exploitation, who spoke of inherited trauma, who told Oprah the media destroyed their peace and put their family in danger. That makes every public move, every video, every soundbite, every appearance, subject to a higher standard of scrutiny. And when their actions begin to resemble the very machine they escaped, people notice. This is the Netflix problem in full view. The streaming giant has invested millions into the Sussex brand, expecting content that delivers emotion, relatability, and a modern family perspective. But in doing so, they've also given Meghan and Harry a platform that incentivizes spectacle. Intimacy becomes currency. Family moments become scripts. And the line between reality and representation gets thinner each time the camera rolls. The Disneyland video, whether formally tied to Netflix or not, revealed how close to that line the couple is willing to dance. And the audience, having once believed in their pursuit of authenticity, is now asking the one question they can't easily answer. Was this love or was it strategy? In London, the response to Meghan and Harry's Disneyland video didn't come in the form of interviews, statements, or press releases. No royal family member publicly condemned or commented on the viral footage. Buckingham Palace didn't release a memo. Clarence House remained silent. Kensington Palace refused to answer reporters' questions. But within the institution, among aides, insiders, and those still loyal to the strict codes of royal discretion, there was a very clear message. This was embarrassing. While the palace has long maintained a policy of never complain, never explain, senior figures within the royal household are far from indifferent. Behind the scenes, carefully controlled channels of information leaked just enough to suggest that the video had not only landed awkwardly in public, it had landed poorly among the royals themselves. One longtime palace aide, speaking to a royal correspondent under condition of anonymity, put it bluntly, it was tasteless. Not because of what was shown, but because of how it was shown. There's a dignity that used to surround royal children. This wasn't that. This was something else entirely. The discomfort extended beyond the Queen's court. According to insiders, Princess Anne was reportedly the most appalled by the video, not because she harbors personal animosity toward Meghan or Harry, but because she has always been fiercely protective of royal tradition. Known for her no-nonsense approach to public duty and her guarded family life, and has raised her own children in relative privacy, refusing royal titles for them and keeping them far away from publicity. The Disneyland video, with its edited glamour and high-production feel, struck her as precisely what royals were supposed to avoid. She would never have allowed Zara or Peter to be paraded like that, one former royal staffer said. For her, service comes before image. Always has. Always will. That video looked like a commercial. King Charles's reaction was said to be more restrained, but no less serious. According to sources close to the monarch, he was not amused, particularly by the way the video reignited criticism of the royal family's internal divisions. Charles has spent months trying to de-escalate tensions between the Sussexes and the rest of the family, attempting to present a more unified front in the wake of the Queen's passing and his own ascension. But moments like this pull old wounds wide open again, especially when they become global talking points. Privately, Charles is believed to have voiced concern over the long-term implications of Harry and Meghan's brand-building strategy. He fears it undermines the institution, one aide shared. When royal lineage is used as a marketing hook, it cheapens the crown. That's the worry. That concern wasn't abstract. In internal palace circles, the Disneyland video was discussed not just as a breach of decorum, but as a potential threat to the monarchy's ability to preserve its moral high ground. The late Queen Elizabeth II built her reputation on quiet strength and restraint. Never overtly emotional in public, never flashy, she protected the mystique of the monarchy through decades of subtle distance. This video, with its performative intimacy and visible branding overtones, stood in direct contrast to that legacy. It was precisely the kind of behavior that gave monarchists fuel to argue that Harry and Meghan were right to leave the royal family, because their values no longer aligned with its principles. Still, the palace understood the trap of reacting. Any official comment would validate the narrative, draw more attention, and force an institutional body, already battling relevance in the modern world, into a PR war with two media-savvy ex-royals. Instead, the firm's strategy was passive deflection. All official palace press briefings remained on script. Reporters were told the family was focusing on His Majesty's schedule, and that they would not be distracted by speculation. Behind the scenes, however, aides were reportedly instructed to avoid even casual commentary on the video in their communications. The royal family didn't want to be seen as either condoning or condemning. They wanted to appear untouched. But silence does not equal indifference. There are rumors that certain royal advisors, particularly those tasked with maintaining the public image of the Wales family, used the backlash to reinforce their long-standing strategy: keep William and Kate's children as far from curated media as possible. No glossy birthday videos. No staged family outings for press purposes. Just quiet, selective, highly controlled photo releases. Indeed, in the weeks following the Disneyland video, Prince William and Princess Kate released a single, understated image of Prince George fishing at a local pond, taken by Kate herself. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. No music, no motion, no flashy edits. Just a boy in the English countryside, smiling, unaware of the camera. For many observers, it read like a pointed reminder of how the royal family believes public childhood should be managed. Some media critics speculated that the photo was released as a subtle counter-programming strategy, a way for the palace to reinforce its image of grace and minimalism without saying a word about Meghan and Harry. Whether intentional or not, the comparison was made loudly across social media, and to the palace's benefit. Beyond image, there were deeper tensions brewing behind closed doors. Multiple sources suggest that Prince William, though outwardly stoic, is growing increasingly frustrated by Harry's continued use of royal ties to maintain relevance. In conversations with close advisors, William is said to have expressed concern that the Sussexes' media ventures blur the line between family and business too aggressively. "It's not just about them anymore," one insider claimed William said. "It's about what it means to be royal. And every time they do something like this, that meaning gets weaker." He reportedly told one of his senior staffers that the institution can't compete with theatrics, hinting at the Sussexes' ability to dominate global headlines with a single video while the royal family, bound by centuries-old restraint, must remain mute. For Princess Kate, the reaction was even more private. While no reports suggest she commented directly on the video, palace insiders say she quietly doubled down on her commitment to protect her children from similar exposure. Kate has always walked a delicate line, presenting a relatable, modern image of motherhood while fiercely limiting her children's appearances. She reportedly told a confidant, "The camera sees everything. Children shouldn't have to perform." Whether that quote is accurate or not, it speaks to the growing philosophical divide between the two royal households. One choosing discretion, the other performance. One rooted in centuries of stoic minimalism, the other embracing Hollywood-level visibility. What complicates the matter even more is that many of the Sussexes' defenders used to be palace sympathizers. They cheered for modernity. They wanted Meghan to succeed. But after the Disneyland video, even some of those voices went quiet, or worse, turned critical. This leaves Buckingham Palace in an awkward position. They can't ignore the Sussexes forever, not when their actions continue to dominate headlines and shape global conversations about what royalty is and what it should be. But they also can't engage. To do so would grant legitimacy to a media strategy they fundamentally oppose. So they wait. Wait for public interest to move on. Wait for the next scandal to hit. Wait for time to erode the relevance of Meghan and Harry's media moves. And in the meantime, they send quiet signals through curated photographs, restrained appearances, and a constant return to tradition. Because in the eyes of the institution, this is not just about optics. It's about survival. The fury over Meghan and Harry's Disneyland video might have faded into the digital ether, just another controversy in an ever-churning news cycle, if not for one man's voice booming through millions of screens, Piers Morgan. While many celebrities have critics, few public figures have faced the kind of relentless, almost surgical scrutiny that Meghan Markle endures from Morgan. And this incident proved, once again, that when he speaks, the world reacts, violently, passionately, and often, divisively. But the impact of his tirade wasn't just about volume. It was about influence. The Piers effect, as many in British media now refer to it, doesn't just stir emotion, it reshapes perception. What was initially seen by many as a glossy, albeit overly staged, family video suddenly became, in the eyes of millions, a calculated PR move bordering on exploitation. In the immediate aftermath of his takedown, calling the video a narcissism parade, and accusing the Sussexes of parading their children like designer accessories, viewers across the ideological spectrum began echoing his sentiments. Commentators who previously gave the couple the benefit of the doubt began to hesitate. News outlets that once wrote glowing features about Meghan's motherhood pivoted to editorials questioning the ethics of using children in branded content. But to understand the full effect of Piers Morgan's influence in this scenario, one has to look beyond the moment and consider the ecosystem he thrives in, and how he exploits that system to shape headlines and dominate public discourse. Piers Morgan is more than a media personality. He's a provocateur by design. He understands the modern digital attention economy better than most of his peers. He knows that outrage spreads faster than sympathy. He knows that mockery outpaces nuance. And when it comes to Meghan and Harry, he knows exactly where to aim. His disdain for Meghan is deeply personal, famously stemming from a perceived snub years ago when she allegedly ghosted him after rising to fame. But what began as a personal slight morphed into a full-blown media crusade. Morgan has repeatedly attacked her on issues ranging from her race and feminism to her honesty and emotional transparency. His criticisms are often packaged with theatrical anger, peppered with sarcasm and delivered with the conviction of someone who sees himself as a cultural guardian against hypocrisy. And yet, regardless of where one stands politically or morally, his messaging works. His commentary doesn't exist in a vacuum, it ripples outward. Every time he speaks, social media erupts. Hashtags are born. News cycles shift. Editorial